7:10. Apologize we were late. Let's stand for the invocation by Mr. Rutledge.
Good evening. With another school year nearing completion, let us pray that the children of Enfield have a healthy, engaging, and enjoyable summer. May the lessons they've learned benefit them for years to come, and may the graduating class of 2019 be successful in all their future endeavors as they move on to the next phase of their lives.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Fire evacuation. We have 2 exits from the chamber, out to the rear of the chamber, and to my left, your right, and a left down the stairs and out to the rear parking lot. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rutledge.
Here.
Mrs. Riley.
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc.
Here.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Here.
Mr. Neville.
Here.
Mr. Ryder.
Here.
Mrs. DePoe.
Here.
Mr. Rene.
Here.
Chairman Krusell.
Here. We have all 9 present. Thank you. Board guests, Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, our first guest, we welcome Social Studies Coordinator Joel Sine, and he has some students with him this evening. Some of our 8th grade students at JFK did a very special project in their social studies class, and I am not going to ruin the surprise. Some of you may have seen it already at the Memorial Day ceremony, but I will turn the mic over to Mr. Sine, and actually, hopefully, he will turn them over to the students because no one wants to hear from any of us except
Do
them.
we have a wireless guy there?
Thank you to the school board, Mr. Drezek and Mr. Longy for having us here tonight. And thank you to our veterans and those soldiers we honor on this project, having given the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Our 8th grade history classes at JFK have undertaken a special project designed to further honor the soldiers from Enfield who gave the last full measure of devotion to our nation during America's Civil War.
Samantha, Madeline, Sabrina, and I, and our 8th grade classmates at JFK, researched the lives and military records of the 39 soldiers honored on the Civil War Soldiers Monument located on North Main Street. Working with partners, we developed short biographies of their lives and service during the war. Our goal was to get to know these heroes and what their experiences were before going off to war. We were also able to gain an understanding of the important role Enfield played in Union victory and the preservation of our nation.
These men we honor share the same last names of Enfield Public School students, lived on our streets, worked on our land and in our factories, several of whom were not much older than us before enlisting to fight. Our goal is to bring their stories to the current citizens of Enfield, beyond just being a name on a monument. With that in mind, we presented our research to the graphic design students at Enfield High School. They have designed 39 signs, 1 for each soldier, to be posted throughout town displaying the biographies we have written. JFK students have done fundraisers to pay for the creation and printing of these signs. We were fortunate enough to present the first of these signs to Mayor Ludwig at the Memorial Day ceremony at Town Hall. Thank you to our teachers, Mr. Ungar, Mr. Laney, and Mrs. Gilbert for assisting us with the research and writing, and our JFK administration, Mr. Petrucci at EHS and Central Office for supporting this project. And a special thank you to Mike Reedy from Signorama for the printing of these signs. As mentioned, we have been working hard to raise funds for the printing of these signs through hat days and video game tournaments. Recently, we have had a local group step forward and offer to assist with costs. Company G, 14th Regiment, Connecticut Volunteer Infantry, 1862 to 1865 Inc., a group of local historians and Civil War reenactors who are gracious enough to present to our 8th grade class each year at JFK, will be working with us on the final edits and funding of these signs. We are very grateful for the contribution and support of this work.
I'd like to read the biography presented on the first sign to the audience. Major Theodore H. Rockwood, 1836 to 1864, Civil War, Connecticut 1st Heavy Artillery and U.S. Connecticut 19th Infantry. Before the war, Theodore Rockwood and his family were residents here in Enfield. The family included his parents, Josiah and Emily Rockwood, his older brother Newell, his 2 younger sisters Emily and Anne, and his youngest brother Judson. His father packed powder as his job, as did many Enfield residents of the time. Prior to enlisting, records indicate Theodore moved to New Haven. He was enlisted as a first lieutenant on May 23, 1861. The 1860 census indicates he was 24 years old when he signed up for the service. He joined the Connecticut 1st Heavy Artillery on May 23, 1861. He was promoted 2 years later in December of 1863 to major in the U.S. Colored Troops 19th Infantry. Major Rockwood was killed in action on July 30th, 1864 in Petersburg, Virginia. The siege started on June 15, 1864, and ended on April 9, 1865. Specifically, Rockwood perished in the action referred to as the Battle of the Crater. During the siege, there was an estimated 42,000 casualties for the Union and 28,000 for the Confederate side. The Union troops attacked Petersburg, south of Richmond, Virginia, because they knew that if they won Petersburg, they would win Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy. They were correct, and these two locations ended up falling into the hands of the Union. A quote from H.G. Thomas, Colonel Commanding Brigade, says, I would also speak of the gallant and genial Major Theodore H. Rockwood, 19th U.S. Colored Troops, who, when the regiment was ordered forward, sprang upon the parapet. The first man fell cheering his regiment on. Such men cannot be easily replaced, nor the void they leave in our hearts readily filled. Thank you for having us here today and accepting our gift to Enfield.
Don't get up yet.
So if you don't mind if I
go ahead,
brag a little bit about our students at JFK. They did some hardcore history for this, looking through census records from 1850 and 1860, Civil War data on the internet, which is hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and combing through all of that to come up with these biographies. That biography was written by an 8th grade student. So our social studies department, we're going to present the Red, White, and Blue School Award, and we get a little bit of press for our civics program. However, primarily, we teach literacy through social studies instruction and through history. And I think this project just shows how strong that is at JFK. And then a quick shout out to the EHS graphic design students who came up with just an incredible design for this, and something that we're going to be very proud to display the JFK students' work with the design that they came up with. Which leads me to the next thing, which I don't know if you guys even know yet. So once again this year, because of this project, Enfield was honored as a red, white, and blue school by the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Education. So this is our 3rd year in a row being honored. And it's because of the hard work that our JFK students put in with this particular project. The theme this year was connecting to your local history. So this project really hit home with that. And I know when I go to the award ceremony, so this has been 3 years that they've been running the program, and we've been honored all 3 of those years. When I leave and we're done speaking, and I have people come up to me and say, how did you do this? How do we get this going in our town? And we're starting to see the results of the Red, White, and Blue Schools program statewide, with these ideas being shared amongst other districts and learning from one another and what we're doing. And I think it's really paying off for our civics education, and obviously this year for our history education. So thank you all for your hard work. This will be hanging in the front hallway at JFK, but we'd like to officially present the recognition to the board.
All right, any questions to our fine students? Mr. Neville.
Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. And having youngsters go through and dig into history and come up with what our past was in this town is just fabulous. After all, we're all kind of linked in part to those who came before us. okay, and the accomplishments they had, and particularly going through a war as the Civil War was. So congratulations. I wish they did this when I was in middle school. Question for you, where are the biographies going? The plaques?
So the initial goal was to actually find out where these gentlemen lived and hang them in the neighborhood. However, that research is proving a little more difficult because of records from the 1860s. So we're going to work with the town engineer and town hall to figure out where they'll best be placed. The final production of the 39 signs is not going to happen until the fall, once our graphics arts students come back into school, so we can get our labor force back again. Thankfully, Ms. Gaskell, the English department coordinator, is actually on the town beautification committee, so we're working with them as well just to figure out where will work best for pedestrians to be able to stop safely, and read this. So that's the goal.
Congratulations.
You could put it right
Thank
in the
you.
four corners here, right in the middle. Don't we? Sure. Mr. Radier.
Congratulations. That's an awesome project. Out of the 34 that you researched, any of them have any ties to you, either the road you live on, school you went to, or something that you see on a daily basis?
Not really.
Not really? Well, that's cool. Well, that's an exciting project. I like to see wherever you guys finish and put those. I think that would be a great thing for schools to do a little tour through and a lot of field trips. I think that would be great and for years to come. So congratulations on that great project.
Thank you.
Ms. Riley.
So let me just get this right. You personally authored that one? That is amazing. That's something that you would see at like a national monument somewhere. I am so very proud of you, as I think probably everybody else is up here. Kudos to you and everybody who collaborated on it with you, and thank your parents for supporting you too. That's great. That's phenomenal. It's professional to me. She wins. Great job.
Ms. LeBlanc.
I just want to say thank you for all your efforts. And you guys are all in 8th grade, so you're going to high school next year? Yeah. You're not sure? You're going to do great things. You've accomplished a lot in 8th grade, and it was a great project that you guys worked on. And there's this paper called the Enfield Press, which you guys probably don't even know about. And every week it comes out, and in the back it says, your town 100 years ago. I just love reading that stuff and the history about Enfield. And some of the stuff is silly, like a cow ran away, and like the whole town was out looking for the cow. And you forget that's how Enfield was all those years ago. So when you started reading and you went as far back as the Civil War, I just thought that was really excellent. And I thought you guys did a really nice job, and you really did a good job presenting. And you were really confident, and I'm really proud of you guys for that. So whatever you're going to do next year, good luck. Have an enjoyable and safe summer, and hopefully we see you guys again in front of the board someday. So thank you.
So one of their early units next year as 9th graders is World War I. Just throwing that out there.
Mr. Pope.
I have a quick question, and I apologize if maybe it was mentioned quickly in the beginning and I just missed it. This project, this program, is it that the program is available and students volunteer to do it, or are they selected? I'm not totally familiar with how it works.
So they did it with their classes, the 8th
Okay.
grade history classes.
Okay. And then I guess as far as comments go, again, just like everyone else said, I mean, absolutely wonderful job. This is really high quality work. It's clear that you've all worked super hard on it and come away with a lot of knowledge that probably most people in town, don't have at this point, except for Bill Hosley, because he knows everything. So definitely well done. Your perseverance is appreciated. I mean, I have memories of going to the Connecticut Historical Society and like diving through documents like that when I was in middle school too. And it's still something that I remember doing because it kind of sticks with you in a way. That many years later, you look back and you're like, you know what, I was connected to that, and I did dive into that really deeply. And I'm probably going to sort of massacre this saying, but paraphrasing, there's a saying that goes along the lines of, you die twice, the day that you stop breathing and the day that someone says your name for the last time. And I just think that, like, with this work that you're doing, people are going to be saying these names for an indeterminate amount of time, because for as long as these signs are outside, someone is going to stop by and they're going to read that name and they're going to speak that name to the person that they're with. And I think that probably being in 8th grade, like that's a really permanent kind of thing you don't think about a lot. But that's beyond beautiful and beyond meaningful for a contribution to these young men that were lost to war. So thank you for that. It's really like, it's probably bigger even than you might know.
Maybe a hall of heroes in the new middle school.
So, Ms. Tapo almost made me cry. I didn't really make that connection, but that's really beautiful. And so I just want to read it. Thank you for preserving those memories. And I can't wait to read. I will wait my turn. But I just want to say, really well done. I'm so proud that you represent our town, and you're doing a wonderful job. And also for the lady who wrote this, and I maybe shouldn't do this, but I grade graduate level papers at Bay Path University. So, down the road, if anybody wants to come by for a tour, I'd be happy. But that's phenomenal work, phenomenal. And I couldn't be prouder of the way that you're processing your education, owning it, and creating something. That's pretty amazing. So well done.
Anyone else? Well, again, thank you. Why don't you all come up here for a picture in front of us?
With your red, white, and blue and the sign.
Yeah, and the sign, and that as soon as they're done looking at the sign. Block us, don't worry about us. We're nothing. You guys,
We're not here.
it's you guys. You want to see yourself on TV
Weird.
too?
It is weird, isn't it? It's so weird to see yourself on TV. I totally know that.
Too late. It's too late.
Don't go to work. It's never too late. It's never too late.
And just for everyone knows, this one right here I've known since she was. Her brother and my son were on the same soccer team back in years ago. So.
Very nice.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. So we took care of A and B.
While they're all still here, Mr. Sine mentioned that this is the third year. I don't believe there's any other district in the state that's been recognized all 3 years of the Red, White, and Blue program. But it's no coincidence that Mr. Sine and you see in the front row, Ms. Burr, have been leading this department over the last 3 years. So it's a testament to them as well for the work that they put in. So thank you guys again for everything you've done and now you have no choice but to get it in a 4th year in a row. So.
And with the referendum passing, we're just going up from here. It's going to get better in years to come. So, Mr. Drezek, number 6C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we want to welcome Craig Pelkey, Greg Boswell, Becky Boswell, and Amanda Pelkey from the EYSA Enfield Ramblers Association. They're here to recognize and present an award to a well-deserving senior from Enfield High School. And I'll leave the drama to you guys to announce who's getting it.
There should be that wireless mic there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You got to talk into that because it won't get on TV.
Thank you. Is it on? Yeah, it's on.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for having us. As you said, we do have a award we'd like to present to a high school student, Enfield High School student, that has showed his commitment to us, not so much on the field, but off the field, which is kind of new for us because we recognize, a lot of hard work on the field. So this is a little different for us. But Enfield Ramblers is a longstanding youth football and cheer association from Enfield that is overseen by mainly parent and community volunteers. Our organization dates back more than 50 years. The focus of the Enfield Ramblers is to teach the youth of Enfield not only the sports of football and cheerleading, but also to foster growth in much-needed characteristics, i.e. commitment, leadership, work ethic, teamwork, and enable them to become successful individuals in all aspects of their lives. We'd like to present a recognition award to Francis Crowley tonight. He was a registered football player in his younger years, like when he was 6, because I coached him. When he determined that football wasn't for him, he did not just move on to something else. He continued to help and dedicate himself to the organization. He volunteered thousands of hours of his own time, even during his high school years. He always had a smile on his face as he helped. Fran made himself available when it was time to prepare for the upcoming seasons by organizing and cleaning equipment. He helped at games and practices to set up, clean up, take down, and of course, transport by golf cart. If there was an injury, he often directed ambulances in or out or kept the area clear. When something was needed, chances are Fran knew where it was, and he would run and get it. The purpose of this extraordinary award is to let Fran know that all the countless hours he dedicated to the Ramblers have not gone unnoticed. Fran, we truly appreciate you, and thank you. We're presenting Fran with a $300 scholarship and a letter of recognition for his efforts.
Where'd he go? Right here. There you go. You're up. There you are. Well deserved. Nice job. So again, come on up, all of you, and let's get a picture.
I'll take a picture.
Sure. And do we want to get the parents up here too?
Someone had to drive him.
He's no stranger to this dais, so.
Yeah, I got it. Those days are long gone.
No. Come on, whatever you guys want. It's your time.
Let's go. You're part of this. Let's go. Let's take your own picture. All right.
That's right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
We have, before you go, we have a question for you, Ms. LeBlanc.
Sit, though. You don't have to stand up here.
I don't have a question.
But I can wait for everybody to sit now. I feel like I'm gonna cry. Like all these kids that went to Ramblers that I got to spend time with are graduating. It's a very emotional time for senior families. But I wanted to say that as a family that went through Ramblers with you and your brother and your parents and all your brothers, really, when I used to do the announcing for the games, I could always rely on Fran to help me out. I took the announcing very seriously. I would get there at, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would announce the last game at night, oftentimes not taking a break. And like they said, Fran wasn't playing, but he was always there to help whatever you needed any time of day. Further, it didn't just matter if you saw Fran at Enfield High School. No matter where you saw him, whether it was a basketball court or out somewhere, he was always very pleasant. Hello, Mrs. LeBlanc. I think that this is a wonderful award, and I'm very proud of you. And I think it is really well deserved. So, congratulations. I'll see you on the 18th.
Okay. You are excused if you wish. Number 7, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. That's not going to work. Okay, we don't have any student reps tonight because they're probably home studying for finals, so they're excused. So I will try to be brief. First of all, earlier tonight, board members, town council members, Enfield High staff, parents, and National Honor Society graduating students attended the recognition dinner at the Mount Carmel Society. I want to thank the members of the Mount Carmel Society for hosting the 2019 National Honor Society recognition dinner event once again. This longstanding tradition is greatly appreciated by the staff, students, families, and I know the board is greatly indebted to the Mount Carmel Society for continuing to do this. All Enfield Public School students will be dismissed early on June 14th and 17th. That's Friday and Monday. Lunch will be served for K-8 students. June 17th is the last day of school for students. We want to wish our students, families, and staff a restful summer, and we will see you all on August 28th. Enfield High School graduation will be held on Tuesday, June 18th at 7 p.m. outside on the athletic fields, weather permitting. Each board member has received an invitation. A quorum agenda is enclosed in your packet. There's also a list of June events listed in your packets as well. And lastly, I have to go back. There's one more item I'd like to address. At this time, I'd like to give the board an update regarding the Stowe Head Start project. As you know, the town manager gave an update at the last town council meeting, and I have a little bit more information to share with the board this evening. Just to repeat what Mr. Bromson had said last Monday, that the Director of Public Works, Don Nunes, presented a plan to add over 100 additional parking spaces at Stowe. Currently, the town budget's about $100,000 for ECDC transportation, and with all the programming changes, the manager and I have worked out an arrangement that we would take over the transportation costs for next school year, thus freeing up the town funds to go toward the parking improvements. We'd be able to absorb these costs due to our large number of buses in operation throughout the day, and although they are still in the design phase, we're hopeful that this project will be completed before the first day of school. All signs indicate that it would be. With regards to air conditioning, over at Stowe, the town has identified funds through the Honeywell contract to cover costs for air conditioning the gymnasium. A temporary unit has been identified for the first 2 months of school, and while we continue to work with the contractor on a permanent solution has been identified by Carrier, but the temporary unit will be installed until the large fixed unit can be installed. Again, the town has the funding for the project, but we will have air conditioning in the gym starting on the first day of school. Storage, there's been some questions about storage inside and outside of the building. We've been working with a vendor to try to create additional storage inside the building, and we're confident that the needs of the entire building will be met by the first day of school with necessary storage. Additional student bathrooms. We have identified space for an additional student bathroom in the building. We're in the process with Buildings and Grounds of planning the design for the space, and we'll hopefully have plans to share with you guys in the near future. Costs and general planning. As you guys know, John Daig has been serving as the general contractor for this project, although it's not really his job. But John had a previous commitment tonight, so he's unable to be here, but we do speak on a daily basis, so I'll try to share with you what I can regarding the construction projects for the Head Start facility. As I've been receiving a lot of questions regarding costs and timelines for the project, I just need to put the project in perspective. In order to make, and I'm learning this as we go, in order to make any modifications to the space, we're required to get approval through the building department. So although we've received a set of stamped plans, building permit has been, and as well as a building permit has been submitted, the building department has a few modifications to the plan that need clarifying before plans are official. This is all part of the normal process, and we appreciate greatly the building department as well as the fire marshals for their assistance with all this work. So although we can get a ballpark quote on some of this work and the materials that are needed, we can't get official quotes on any of the work until the plans are final. So currently, John is working very closely with our B&G staff to line up either internal staff to complete the necessary work or contractors when they're appropriate. Together, they're doing their best to get estimates in order to prepare for when they're given the official notice, but we're not in a position today to give you official figures because we simply don't know them, and the figures do have the potential to change daily, which they have as we've gone through this process. But once we know definitive information, we'll be able to surely pass that along to the board. Additionally, John has offered to come to a board meeting either over the summer or a special meeting if warranted to give a complete recap of the project when everything is official. And although all the information I may have just shared earlier may appear to be a roadblock, I just want to assure all of you that nothing that has been shared with us thus far put the timeline for the completion of this project in any jeopardy. I've also received a number of questions regarding tours of Head Start and Stowe so that board members and families can see what the facilities will look like for next school year. And as both the board and the council are aware, the town manager and I have committed to conducting this process with as much transparency as possible. However, this request might be a little bit challenging at the time because the work that's required to make these facilities operational for the first day of school is not quite underway, as of what I said earlier. And touring the facility at the time when the potential for additional changes still exists wouldn't necessarily be necessary. I understand parents would like to know where their children are going. And Chris and I have both had the utmost confidence in our professional staff who meet weekly and are making the decisions in a collaborative way to ensure we provide the absolute best opportunities for all of our kids, regardless of what program they're in. And as we've mentioned from the start, once the necessary adjustments are completed, we have every intention to hold open houses at both facilities. The public will be welcome at these events so we can showcase the tremendous amount of work that everyone put into the project, but also to show the groundbreaking opportunities now available for children. So once a date for these open houses is confirmed, Chris and I will inform the board and the council. We'll also use all the tools at our disposal to communicate this with the entire community. Transportation. So as the board's aware, I don't like to make promises that I can't keep, but I feel I have a need to at least inform you of some potentially exciting news. Currently, only a portion of our Head Start students receive transportation to school. Of the current students who attend Stowe, only our integrated students and our students coming from Hartford that are part of the Project Choice program receive transportation to school. We're working very closely with the bus company to create a plan so that all pre-K students that are attending Stowe next year will receive transportation services. Now, this would mean that all Head Start, integrated pre-K, including peer partners, and STEAM students would receive transportation to school next year. Excuse me. In order to provide this additional service, there may have to be modifications to the start times for the programs, but let me just say the length of the days will not change, which is currently being worked on as we speak. Now, although I cannot confirm this at the moment, it's my hope and intention to announce this additional benefit to children and families in the very near future. Just ask for your patience as we continue to work with the appropriate staff to complete the logistics. And lastly, an update on the Eagle Academy. When we first introduced this program, the question I received was, what's the worst case scenario? So my answer at the time was that no one would show up. That would be the worst case scenario. However, I was convinced that once we opened the new program, getting kids into the program wasn't going to be the problem. The larger problem is going to be not having enough spaces for all the families that would want to enroll. I also explained to the board that the ideal number of students to begin the school year would be 6. This way we can ensure that the program was self-sufficient. I'm happy to announce today that as of today, we have 8 confirmed students who will be attending the Eagle Academy on the first day of school, and we anticipate a few more to be confirmed in the coming weeks. At this point, this is the most up-to-date information I can share without getting into speculation with regards to both of these projects, and as soon as we get more information, Chris and I continue to make the commitment to pass it along. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Any questions for the superintendent?
I have one.
Ms. Hernandez.
The transportation for the preschool children, that's just for next year that or is it continuing?
Well, this year's over.
I'm sorry?
This year's over. I mean, now or going forward?
I mean, when you just made your report, you said that we would be transporting all preschool children at the Stowe Center, correct?
We're working on a plan. We're hopeful that we can create a plan to offer transportation for all students that attend Stowe for preschool for next year continuously. That would be part of the program going forward.
Okay, so at this point, it's not confirmed yet that we're...
No, but I know there's a lot of speculation regarding transportation, so I felt that at this point, I would at least let the board be aware that we were examining this. Unfortunately, we have to rely on the hard work of the bus company to make this work, and if I confirm anything without their approval, I might be in trouble.
Right, we need to get accurate information. Thank you.
Mr. Renier.
The students for the Eagle Academy are all Enfield Public School students?
Correct.
Second question for busing, just want to confirm, I know you said all preschool students. Those are all preschool students for EPS, correct?
Correct.
Because there's a preschool for the ECDC program that would not include them.
That would be that's on a separate program.
Okay.
Yes. Parents still drop off for that program. That would remain unchanged.
Any other questions? Okay, so superintendent's closed. Number 8, audiences. We have none. Does anyone want to speak to the board? I declare audiences closed. Number 9, board member comments. Mr. Renier.
Thank you. I just wanted to wish all the students happy final days of school. Summer's coming, so be happy, be safe, be responsible, and get your reading in, keep your math up to date. We don't want that summer slump happening, which happens to everybody. So be at it. To the teachers, congratulations on another successful year. To the administrators or anyone that's leaving our school district because of retirement, congratulations and thank you for your work to our district. Our students are better because of it. For those new staff that are coming on board, welcome. It's an exciting year coming up, and we're excited here on the board to welcome you all with open arms. Mr. Chairman, through you to the superintendent, thank you for addressing those concerns that have been brought up, especially in regards to the cost, the flux, and the current Mr. Day currently working on the actual plans of what the inside is going to look like for the Stowe moving on. And also, in regards to the tour you had mentioned, we had corresponded in regards to that, so thank you. And I'll say, and I said it before, and I'll say it again in regards to concerns. I know at the Head Start building, all the classrooms have bathrooms in them, which makes toilet training beneficial and positive for everybody involved. One concern I had when this program was mentioned was the spacing, and I know you guys are working diligently to get more bathrooms into that building, and I appreciate that and I applaud that. But the way that the classrooms are just set up over at the Head Start building, where the sinks are lowered and everything is low for the little guys, and the bathrooms are there, I think it's just beneficial. So if that can get moved over to the new building as well, I think it will run seamlessly. They have a lot more benefits over at the Stowe building. They have the gymnasium for rainy days. Hopefully we can utilize the STEAM Academy, the Kite Academy in regards to the manipulatives, so the kids can get an extra bonus in regards to their education. So it can work out. It's just there's a lot of questions in limbo, and I guess as time moves on, the project will create itself. So I just want to make sure that all the kids in Enfield that are currently in that building, from Stowe to ECDC to the preschool programs, that everyone is getting the benefit of this. So I would like to thank you for those comments this evening, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Renier. Any other board comments? Mr. Poe?
So the last Enfield Street School PTO meeting is Thursday, the 13th at 5:30. Again, it's the last one of the year. I know the first ones in the fall tend to be a little bit more well-attended, but if there's anyone who's still kind of hanging on and just wants to see what it's all about before they start to jump in maybe next year, definitely go give them a good turnout for their last one of the year. Everyone there has been working super hard for Enfield Street Schools, so definitely want to recognize that for them. I have a question, and it really can be answered by anyone who knows the answer, so I don't know if technically I have to put this through the chair to the superintendent or if a board member can answer it, but it has to do with school calendars and Head Start calendars. My understanding was that the Head Start calendar is our EPS district calendar, and I know that even though they have a different day requirement, we still have to ratify that calendar and approve it. So my question is, would we have to also approve any changes made to the Head Start calendar as a board?
I thought it was one calendar, and it was the times on, we approve, if you look at the calendar, there's the dates on the left side and there's the times on the right side. We approve the dates on the left side and the times are administrative.
So like the dates for the Head Start year couldn't change without our vote?
Correct?
We include all of it. Head Start has their own guidelines and requirements, so but we include it in the district calendar because they're under our umbrella. But we don't, the board doesn't pick like there have been times where Head Start would change their times of programming, so like their extended day may change by a half hour year to year.
I mean,
That's all
like
done through Head Start.
like their start day and their final day.
They would typically will follow our calendar, but the Head Start community will tell us what their dates and times will fall into.
So
We
they can
include them
choose
in the boards.
an end date that's different than the EPS calendar end date for the year?
It's possible, from my understanding.
Okay. Thank you. And then really, I just wanted to make a little comment. I also want to echo all of what Rich said about everyone's hard work, all the students, faculty, and parents for all the support all year. And also to thank Mr. Drezek for the additional information tonight regarding the restack of Stowe School to accommodate Head Start. But I did want to point out that I feel a little bit uncomfortable by the fact that at the town council meeting, Town Manager Bromson encouraged the public to come to the Board of Education with specific questions up to and including details of classroom plans and layouts. And I think from your update, Mr. Drezek, it's apparent that those are not finalized. So I just wanted to point out that I felt that was a little bit irresponsible, and to ensure, and as I think that you're committed to do, to ensure that the communication on both town council and Board of Ed side is clear, and that there's a good understanding of what information each council or board has before deferring the public to ask questions that we may not be equipped to answer. So I just really felt the need to say that tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. Do we just continue down the row here? Or?
Actually, Mr. Drezek took up most of my comments in his superintendent's report. So I guess I would just echo some other comments. You know, congratulations to all the graduates, to all the students in the district. You know, have a safe and healthy summer. I think if I were to bring up anything, I continue to see reports on Facebook, and I know we're looking into, or I believe we're looking into, correct me if I'm wrong, the bus cameras. I continue to see reports about people passing stop school buses, and I really just want to say, really? Are you really in that much of a rush that you're going to endanger the life of a kid because you have to get your Dunkin' Donuts a little bit sooner in the morning? It can wait. You know, you're going to be stopped for 10 seconds. It's not a big deal, and you don't really want that on your conscience that you might have hit a kid and potentially injured that kid for the rest of his life. So, you know, please, I know we're coming to the summer, and this will be a little bit more relevant later in the year. It just kind of angers me a little bit that people would be that irresponsible. But, you know, when you see the bus, you know, cut it some slack. I know nobody likes getting stuck behind a school bus, you know, especially when you're on 91, you're trying to get to work and you're stuck behind that bus going 50 miles an hour in the right lane and you can't move over. It's annoying, I get it, but you don't want to endanger the safety of the kids. So let's just play it a little bit safer, be patient, and move from there. But thank you.
Yes, please, Mr. Pope.
I just wanted to reiterate that I have also received some parent concerns directly, and I think through the chair to the superintendent, we talked about this in a prior meeting where you confirmed that Smith is in the process of including such cameras in the new buses that they're rolling out into their fleet over time, something to that effect.
Yes, we're working with Smith right now. Actually, at the next meeting, I could probably report more definitively the amount of cameras that will be in buses for next year, but I think it's higher than what we originally had intended.
That's awesome. I just wanted to make everyone know that it's in the works.
Ms. Riley?
Yep. So this Thursday, Henry Barnard PTO is having their end of the year picnic outside on the lawn from 6 to 7:30, I believe. So I'd say go, have fun, make some play dates for the summer, have a good time. Also wanted to say, last week we did first readers ceremony, final one of the year. We invited 231 new readers, nice. And we had 41 second invites, and out of that, 150, give or take, showed up. And the police chief and the deputy police chief did an awesome job. The kids love it when they get to see the police officers. And I want to just thank everybody who came out and helped volunteer with the first readers, because we've been low on volunteers lately, and everybody that I asked last minute came out and helped me. So I'm really appreciative of that. And then I just wanted to say kudos to the Stowe Pre-K Academy. Last night they had their moving up ceremony at Enfield High School. I may be a little biased to this since my daughter was in it, but they did a great job. All the kids sang and it was wonderful, and they took all their pictures and they had refreshments afterwards, and it was just a wonderful evening. So I hope everybody has a great summer. Cars, if you're out there in neighborhoods, small neighborhoods, just be aware of kids riding bikes, walking down the street, running down the street, balls falling out into the middle of the road. Just be aware. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Ms. LeBlanc?
I just want to thank Ashley and Chris for bringing up the the bus mirrors or the bus cameras because I also got that email, and then it's been a concern, and it seems like it's on certain roadways, so we should be aware of that. It's been a busy time at Enfield High. They had their prom, they had their class night, they had their class picnic. Finals started today for 9 through 11. Seniors started their finals yesterday. Graduation rehearsal starts on Friday. I was hoping either Matt or Jacqueline would be here tonight, as I wanted to give them a special send-off because they have been amazing representatives of the board. When I went to the scholarship and award night, they received so many accolades.
They're at Mount Carmel.
Yeah. I know they received so many accolades, and I know they're going to go on to do great things. They're just such motivated, polite, and kind people. And I just want to wish everybody a safe and healthy summer. Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez?
All right, so this may be a little bit long-winded, but please stay with me because there's a path that I'm taking. Specifically, the first thing that I want to address is kind of talk about, just because maybe to prepare people in general about my communication style. I'm going to cry, but that's because that's me. It's regulating. I am an emotional person. I embrace that emotion. But it's also, communication is difficult for me. Verbal communication, that's part of being autistic. And so what I kind of like to, but I like to make light of things. That's the way that I kind of navigate through life. And so I like to liken it to the video game Wipeout. And so if you ever see, somebody who's on television and they're playing Wipeout, they start and, they're at the top and they're shaking their hands and they're getting ready. Well, that's everybody stims, by the way. But you get ready and you start that competition and it's really wacky and things happen and, will come out of nowhere and, you might make it to the end, but sometimes you fall in the water face first and it's kind of comical, but it's a little frustrating. And if you make it to the end, you're panting, kind of flustered, and there's somebody waiting for you. And this is a lot like the difficulties that I have when we have meetings, when we have conversations, and something that, I take very seriously because I was elected to be here to have my voice heard in the way that I communicate, period. And I have had struggles having my communication and my requests for communication honored. And so there's a point to this because it starts back, and we'll go all the way back to December. And I'm not going to get into definitely the whole situation, but I had questions about Head Start. I had many questions. And I don't know, what happened, but I had requests for meetings. I had requests to, during many different sessions to have meetings. Those requests were either denied, I was never gotten back to. I am the Head Start liaison. Maybe I'm not the best liaison, but I do reach out to Head Start parents to make sure that their voices are heard. I read all the materials that are given to me. Head Start is important to me. For 5 years, I was a Head Start teacher. I went through a program, Moving Spaces. I went through that process. I went through 2 NIAC accreditations. I'm very well aware of what that process is like. So when we first began to hear the rumblings of that move, I wanted to know more. And I believe that my parents deserved to know more. And that information was not given. The request for those meetings was not honored. To the point that, finally, when I am frustrated, and this is, it's a real thing. When you ask and you ask and you ask, you get to that point where you just feel like you're a little bit broken down. Part of who I am, I'm very straight. I say things the way they are. It's just, I'm not good at politics. I'm not good at games. I just am going to address that situation. And so one of my last requests to have a meeting regarding Head Start was when, very specifically and aggressively, if I may say so, I was denied my accommodation request to have written communication. And that broke my heart because I have showed up for this team I have showed up for every single one of you. I have accommodated you. You are all, your preference is verbal communication. I've been told, well, have a meeting, take a phone call. Fine. I will be there for you. But when I am asking for you to accommodate me, I expect the same respect one time that I've extended to you 99 times. Period. Thank you. With this particular situation with Head Start, because I have such an intimate knowledge of Head Start, there were concerns. There are Head Start policies that must be followed. We risk losing our funding. This is our most vulnerable population. Our most vulnerable population, aside from the special education population. We need to make sure that we are doing right by them. And I have yet to have that. But I have had the opportunity to connect with Head Start parents. I have heard in various rumors that there is 100% support for this. There is not. I am not going to tolerate the public being lied to. There is serious concerns. I'm not going to go into all the things that they were told, but there were serious concerns. I would like to bring up my concerns with Head Start policy because my requests for meeting have been denied repeatedly, so therefore I must ask them here. I have no other recourse. Specifically, we'll go to Head Start policy 1301, specifically 1301.4, regarding the parent committee, policy committee, and their responsibilities include the participation in the recruitment and screening of all Head Start employees. The Head Start director is not there. She resigned, is what I was told from the parents. And it is now my understanding that we are having somebody who is probably very well qualified take over for the entire Stowe preschool programs. So we have the Stowe preschool programs, we have Head Start. That's enormous. Again, I've worked for Head Start, the director of Head Start, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But when a parent who is the chair of that policy committee informs somebody, specifically the superintendent, that the parent policy committee is supposed to participate in all this, and the response is that this person was already a member of EPS and their job description changed, well, our Head Start parents have a right to be a part of that process per Head Start guidelines as I interpret them. I'm welcome to understanding more about that. But unfortunately, again, I was not able to have those meetings or have those questions addressed. 1301.6 are the impasse procedures. If the governing body, which is us, the Board of Education, presents any changes to programming or the direction of that Head Start, they have to present that to the policy committee of the parents at Head Start and all the other staff members. It is not presented as the only option. It is presented as we would like to do this, and then a dialogue occurs. That dialogue never happened. There was never a choice. That is not okay. That is not okay. And especially when it's written in the Head Start policy guidelines. It took me, I found out some information last night. It took me today of looking to find that information. So I think that we can dedicate a little bit of time to make sure that we're doing things correctly. This all feels very rushed. There are parents who have spoken to me in tears. They are devastated. And no, are they here? I don't care if they're here. They spoke to me. So I was elected to be their voice. I decided, I fought for the right to be able to represent them, and so I will make sure that that voice is heard. Then I will move on to the Eagle Academy. I am a huge fan. Love, love, love the disability community. I think that I had this long thing prepared. I'm not going to read it all, but I am a professor, and so I talk too much. And so I want to make sure that I always like put context in. I'm just going to go straight to what was bothersome to me. When this was initially proposed, I brought up a really, to me, concern. And that is that, you know, people in the disability community are fighting and advocating against the use of seclusion for most of our students. It is something, all of our students. I've requested information. I have a boatload of information about what the psychological trauma of taking a disabled student who has no bodily autonomy and putting them into a seclusion room. That is not, and I will not tolerate this being said as a comment against teachers. I am for the teachers. I want them safe, but I want the students safe as well, because here in Enfield, we make a difference in every child, every day, and that includes our disability population. So, but that's, you know what, fine. This is the way that we're structuring the school. I'm not for it. However, one thing that I did request was a focus group to have communication with parents about what it is, how are we going to create a positive disability culture? Because disability identity, which by the way, I am an expert in, as well as I am an expert in creating and designing programs and spaces to foster disability success. Disability identity usually occurs with non-disabled people, right? And so it's very powerful to be able to make those connections with people who are like you, right? So I agree, bringing people together and having them, you know, be a part of that community and establishing that community is really important. But I wanted to get input from the community. Have a focus group. What is important to you? What would you like to see in a school? How would you like to be treated? What I was told, because I don't want to misquote, I was told that such a request would be too confusing for the people involved. That is an ableist comment to the disability community. I was told that if it was done for one school, it would have to be done for all. Cool, let's do it. But the short answer was no. But then the irony was receiving a phone call for parents to participate in the hiring of a new school principal. So why are parents and people invited, the public invited, to have input on the design and the culture and the community of a general education school, but not given that same opportunity for a special education school? My challenge is that we have a group of dedicated people in this town already who have come together to have their voices heard for the special education population. There is still time. There is still time to welcome people in and say, what is it that you want to see? How is it that you want to be represented? What would make this successful for you? So I am going to end there, and I didn't cry, so hooray. But I'm bothered. And I'm going to be honest with everybody on here because we've gone through the past couple of months some really difficult times. This wears you down. It is nasty. It is hard. And at the end of the day, where's our focus? Our focus is on the students. Every single one of us, people in the audience, people up here, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, Kathy, everybody wants the best for our students. And we need to stop and pause and remember that, because all this other stuff is ridiculous. We can work together. One of my favorite things is that, frankly, all my best friends are conservatives. Why? Because I disagree with them. And we still have to get past that point. We still have to say, I disagree with you, but here's how we can work together. And I think that we can still have that here. But we can't have that with honesty. And as uncomfortable as this might be for you right now, think about how uncomfortable it is for the lives of marginalized people. If we're talking about people in Head Start, if we're talking about the people in disability community who constantly have their voices suppressed, who do not have their choices taken from them. Don't tell me that this was a choice when it was never a choice. Don't tell that to the public. It was never a choice. We don't know a lot of information about it. We are asking, we are trying to find out. We want to make this as successful as possible, and we look forward to the opportunity to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Mr. Neville?
Just a few minor comments. First of all, I was very, very pleased with the JFK History Project. I know we've given them kudos, but some people say, what do you guys do in the schools? I think that's what goes on in the school streets. Wonderful teachers, wonderful kids, and they put out a wonderful product that makes us all proud of the education that they're getting here. You know, we're not perfect, but I think we do a lot of wonderful things that a lot of people don't see. And I'm glad that the superintendent and the assistant superintendent bring those things to us on a regular basis, because that's what we're all here for those kids, and we all agree upon that. I'm pleased with the update on Stowe. I know from experience that these kinds of things are evolutionary, and it takes a while. We're watching a product develop and kind of in motion, and I all think we want a lot of information quickly, sometimes before it's ready. And, you know, the comments were made here, and I think what we want to do is give people as much information we can give them, but not give them misinformation. We want to give it to them when it's ready, and just keep it on the front burner here, so that they get their questions answered and get to see a finished product before we implement it. And finally, graduation's coming up again, and you know, we look back on it and these kids that we had years and years ago, and look what they've done. Obviously, we're very, very proud of what they've done, and we wish them well in any endeavor they have, and hope they come back to this community and share their talents with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Mr. Ryder.
Yes, we have our year-end assembly for the Eli Whitney families tomorrow at 9:15. All parents of Eli Whitney students are welcome. Just bring a blanket or a lawn chair, something to sit on, because weather permitting, we'll be outside in the back. Also, there's a separate 5th grade celebration tomorrow afternoon at 1:15 p.m., also at Eli Whitney. I wanted to take a moment to publicly thank and acknowledge Buildings and Grounds, Mark Garr, Bill Maynard, Mary Keller, Don Nunes, for the new playscape at Hazardville Memorial School. That was something that I've been trying to do for the kids, not only in our building, but in our neighborhood for 5 years. So I wanted to let Mrs. Mazzoli and Mr. Graham and Mrs. Hunter know that it's finally there, and I'm very glad to do that for the kids. I'm also wrapping up my last week of my 6th year running the HMS PTO, and I want to thank the hundreds of kids that I still work with, because I'm also at Eli Whitney, and I look forward to my first group of kids that will be entering JFK in August, where I plan on being on the PTO at JFK in whatever capacity makes sense. And I just wanted to thank those 3 principals that I've worked with, and the hundreds of students, and the dozens and dozens of teachers. It's been a great time at HMS, and I really appreciated them welcoming me as not only a parent, but as a neighbor and as a friend over the years. So thank you for that. So kids, enjoy the playscape. We worked hard to get that done, and we're glad it's there. So thank you for that. And in addition to what everybody else said, have a great summer, be safe, please enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you August 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Anyone else want to add before I go? Because I am not. Mr. Poe.
I just want to add that Sarah has my full support for her comments and for her, honestly, bravery to say some things that maybe some of us feel, maybe some of us don't feel, maybe some of us feel to a different extent than she does. But even if none of us felt the same way, which I know I at least partially feel the same way, even if none of us felt the same way, like, I just really think that putting it out there and speaking your truth is the greatest thing you can do. I think it's a great example. I hope that people are listening, and I think that the message of inclusion and consideration is beyond important, and we just really, really need to step back, think about that, take the time we have left to take in as much of what you've said and make it work for our project as we can, because it's critical. On top of that, I have a comment/question through the chairman to the superintendent about a totally unrelated but more lighthearted subject that playscapes reminded me of. I had received inquiries from a parent regarding getting either a new or one in the first place, because I can't remember if there is one, bike rack at Enfield Street School, because that school actually has a pretty good population of walkers and bikers. And I think that parent had suggested that she ended up dead-ended a little bit with the project going anywhere. So through the chair to the superintendent, I would just ask if you could maybe follow up with Mr. Lord on that and give a status update if there is one or if there's not.
Okay. Please, Mr. Blank.
In the past, there's been different scouts in the community that have actually done bike racks as part of their, so, I mean, even maybe we can reach out to the Boy Scouts or the Girl
We can
Scouts.
swap information.
I
so
know
we
the ones
can-
at JFK, yeah, okay.
Mr. Neville.
There may be a couple. There may be a couple that are being unused at some of the schools, so maybe, okay?
Use what we've got.
All right, is it my turn yet?
Yep.
It's been a trying year, school year. We did start off the school year with a tragedy, and we worked through it. We came up with new programs through our staff. We worked through those, and we are still working through those. We should have faith in our staff that they do have our kids in their best interests. And I'm just going off the cuff here, so nothing prepared, but I congratulate the class of 2019. Next Tuesday, they'll be walking across the stage that they've worked 12 years plus to get to, and look forward to that day, and I think I'll just leave it at that. So we are at number 10, unfinished business. Discussion, if any, regarding adopting the 2019-2020 fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
So I move that we adopt a budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year of $71,691,866, which represents a 0.056%, or $401,741 increase over the current fiscal year. And of note is the town council has already appropriated a budget of $71,290,125, but will be putting forth a resolution on July 1st of 2019 to increase our budget by the $401,741. And this will bring our budget adoption total to the $71,691,866, representing the 0.0564% increase.
So I have a motion by Ms. Riley, second by Mr. Poe. Any discussion?
Quick question,
Mr.
Mr.
Radier?
Chairman. I know with most other boards and commissions in town, they're not liable if we vote on a budget and we can't make it. We are asking to put forth a budget that we have not been approved for, with the hopes that town council follows through on their end. Not that I don't trust them, but they cannot be financially held liable as we can. If we approve a budget, that's more than what we have. That's my only concern, because it's us that's going to get affected by the state, not them.
I'm looking at you.
Oh, I see you looking at me. So the additional, the town council, I spoke with the manager and the finance director again today, that when the town council made our budget appropriation, the state budget hadn't been finalized at that point. Through the MBR calculation, that's what the additional $400,000 is. So my understanding, and there was a reference to a council meeting I wasn't in attendance in, so I don't know what the actual wording was, but based on the conversations that I've had, has been that they were going to adopt our budget as a flat number with the promise to make that legally requirement addition through the MBR calculation, which in turn, if you recall the last conversation with the council, that number was about $380,000. It had since gone up through the whole appropriation process at the state. So legally, the town is required to give us those additional funds. It's just they didn't at the time of appropriation because there was still a question mark from the state. As the information that Ms. Riley read was what information we got directly from the finance manager, that he's putting forth the resolution He's just securing what the final number is from the state. There's actually some talk that number may be a bit higher than 401, but until at a minimum, the 401 is guaranteed through the MBR calculation through Mr. Chambers at the state of Connecticut. So when asked what number the board was required to adopt this evening, that was the number that we were given.
And I will just add something that my predecessor said more than once. The process is backwards. We do our budget, the town does their budget, and then finally the state does their budget. And that's the problem we always fall into.
I agree, but when they come after me for my cash, they're not going to take that into consideration either.
But we won't, but like he said, the town budget was approved on waiting for the,
Right.
I won't
If I
say
could-
the word,
So I guess my
I
folks
didn't
down
answer
in
the
Hartford
question.
to.
If I could, maybe I didn't answer as well as I could have. The additional $400,000 is required by the state of Connecticut that the town must appropriate to the board. They just haven't yet. They didn't have that information when they made the appropriation. So that's what the MBR requirement would be to the Board of Education. So legally, they have to send that. I guess the question, I understand your concern, Mr. Marinier. I would have it the same as well that you do. I think the argument would be if the funding wasn't transferred to the board, I think the questions would be posed upon the council because legally they are required to give you those funds. But again, that's your decision to adopt what you want.
Right, and the town votes, they hold the council accountable. The state holds us accountable. So I guess my additional question would be, if the town doesn't make true on their promise, and they say, hey, you know what, this Stowe creation is costing us a lot more, and we're not going to be able to give it to you, but we'll be putting it through to create your building, so theoretically you're getting the funds. Do we have enough in our fund balance to cover .0546?
We don't have a fund
We
balance.
don't have a fund balance.
Or our
1% carryover?
yeah, 1%
The
carryover.
1% carryover is already included in that figure. So the short answer would be no.
Are you talking about the fund balance the town carries?
Right.
I have a question, and this is just
ahead.
really my ignorance of the budget process because I haven't really seen this question before. If we were to approve the budget without the $400,000 and we just approved it as it was at the 71.2, are we not allowed to subsequently receive that additional money down the line? Like, does the door close and that's it? We didn't get that extra MBR money? Like is there a risk in approving it and just waiting for it to
No,
come
but
in?
isn't
Is
there
that
a risk
allowable?
of
No, but-
MBR?
Well, there's two risks. There's the risk of the MBR because we have to report to the state what appropriation we receive from the town council. The purpose of adopting the budget at this point in time prior to July 1st is Pat West actually has to input next year's budget into the fiscal year when we can actually set the accounts up to start paying our responsibilities after July 1. So that figure is calculated based upon what was presented in order to operate the district next year. So you're correct. If for some reason that motion doesn't pass on July 1st as we're being told, then at that point, the board would have to make adjustments to their budget to cut down because we wouldn't have received the additional $400,000.
So we wouldn't automatically leave ourselves with a budget hole. We would just have to find a way to close it in a really short order.
It would be no different than any other year when there's an unanticipated expense. I'm just off the top of my head remembering the year of the kilns, and there was a $300,000 shortfall that happened in January that the board had to work to find where they were going to find the funds to cover that unanticipated expense. I don't necessarily anticipate it in this case for the reasons I stated earlier, not to mention the budget process with the council has been pretty transparent this past year. So, I know there was conversations that had taken place throughout. So I have no reason to suspect that they wouldn't keep their commitment as they stated. But in the worst case scenario, if the board were to adopt it and the funding doesn't come through, then we would have to make recommendations to the board after July 1 as to where to make those reductions from. It probably would be more in the September range because it would give us the summer to look at personnel shifts. There are people who leave during the summer that we don't anticipate, so that would be one of the places where we would be required to bring you suggestions and the board would have to adopt the budget.
Yes, Mr. Noble.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is no different than what we do basically every second semester. When we sense a budget shortfall, we have an increase in certain costs or unexpected costs, so we end up tightening the budget, freezing things until we make up that difference. Okay, if we don't, if it happens that we don't get it, and by law it's supposed to, I think that the state would come after them for the 400,000 because they'd have to take it out of the fund balance. But I think they're obligated to deal with the MBR.
And just, again, for the board's purpose, in order for us to start functioning on July 1, the board has to have an adopted budget, because Patty has to input that into the system so that payroll can begin on July 1st.
Let me just correct. The increase is not .056, it's .56.
I'm sorry, that was the typo that came across.
Just wanted to
0.56, you are
clarify that.
correct. The dollar amount is correct.
Any other discussion? Again, I will just add backwards. And that's what you get from Hartford, backwards. Everything's backwards from Hartford, so I'll leave it at that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rutledge?
For.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
No.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now let's go forward. Number 11, new business, approval of 2019-2020 Family Resource Center grant. Mr. Drezek?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So every 2 years, the Town Council and the Board of Education need to jointly approve the Family Resource Center grant application being offered by the State of Connecticut Department of Education. The anticipated $100,000 grant award will fund the Family Resource Center in Henry Barnard. Town Council members will approve this grant on Monday, June 17th. Enclosed in your packet is a memo with additional information from Amy Morales, who's the Family Resource Center coordinator, and Amy's also here this evening. She stuck it out, so here to ask any questions if the board may have.
She sat here until 8:30, guys, so. No questions? Roll call, please. Motion by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any other discussion?
Just thank you for the hard work.
I'm sorry.
And your patience.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Rutledge?
For.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 11B, approval of the 2019-2020 Healthy Food Certification. Do I have a motion first?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Now, any discussion? Mr. Drezek.
So in your packet is a memo from Diane Edwards, who's our food service director, nutrition services director, regarding the healthy food certification statement for 2019 and 20. The state of Connecticut requires all districts to complete the certification statement, certifying that all food items sold to students will meet or not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards. Enfield Public Schools lunch program meets all federal and state nutrition guidelines, and Ms. Edwards recommends that we do not certify the 2019-2020 Connecticut Healthy Food Certification due to the additional restrictions that are required. The costs need to comply with the certification will exceed the reimbursement initiative.
So we are voting we're voting to approve, but we have to vote it as a no. Is what recommended. I can't tell you how to vote.
And we did this last year.
And we did this last year, and the year before, and one
every
year
year to my knowledge.
And one year we printed them out, and they're like this thick.
Yep.
That was double-sided.
So, yes, no means yes is what I'm saying.
Just a
Mr. Renier.
Just a quick question. I apologize for being so wordy this evening. For the school, for the primary schools, I don't know if there's a way that you guys can have a conversation, but one of the meal choices, like a day that the meal, it's pretzels, and another meal choice is mozzarella sticks. Like, that's crazy. Like, my kid comes home, he's starving. I'm like, what would you have today? He's like, oh, it's a mozzarella stick day. Like, that's not a meal. So pretzels and mozzarella sticks, if we could find a way to edge those out, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I kind of want to I was actually going to ask a question, and my question was going to be how regularly we're reviewing our dietary for the schools, because I mean, I don't really hear about it, and maybe it's just not something that filters its way down to me, but I actually do care about it. And I also have concerns like Mr. Renier's, where I understand that when we're dealing in technicalities about what is considered healthy by the federal or state government, there are certain things like pretzels or mozzarella sticks that might be finagled to constitute a full meal. But I also know that there is a very large variation in what different districts are providing their students at mealtime. So I guess question through the chairman to the superintendent, how often do we evaluate our nutrition plan? And then secondary question, can this be something that gets discussed among the board down the road in the future to be more involved in the nutrition discussions so that we may at least listen in or have a voice on the choices?
Is this something that's...
We talk about
But it kind of-
nutrition
yeah.
in finance,
Yeah.
and they yearly go over the federal FDA guidelines for what we are to provide the children, and then that's how they get their grant money back and how they self-fund themselves.
Yeah, I
They
mean, I get it.
follow
I
the
just think that we
guidelines
can
in the
do
grant.
better because the federal guidelines are objectively crap.
Well, I mean, if you don't follow the guidelines, you
Point
may
of
not get the
information,
grant.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor, and the discussion is fine. I just don't think it's apropos to what we're being asked to decide.
I think I wanted to clarify how much investiture we put in healthy food before I make my vote. So I just wanted that clarified. Matters to me if we're talking
I'm not
about
saying
it
it
before I
doesn't.
vote.
This is one of those funky kind of things here that doesn't, by voting for it, you restrict your schools from doing a lot of things that we continually do, particularly with the.
Oh, I understand. I just want to make sure that if I am voting, that we're at least moving in the right direction outside of the guidelines before I.
Well, if we vote for the guidelines, then we have to...
No, I guess what I should say is I want to make sure that if I vote against
me-
the guideline, I have a confident understanding that even if we're not being held to the guideline, we're doing our due diligence on the outside. That's
The way I
my-
understand it is if we vote yes, any food at the concession stands have to go under the regulation, any food in the cafeteria, anything extra, every drop of food has to go through regulations.
I understand.
And that's what we're trying to get away from.
I'm assuming the cooking program would have to go,
Yeah.
would be curbed.
I mean, we can move on. We've never really had an opportunity to discuss this. In 2 years, I don't think we've ever actually discussed what we are doing other than not certifying. So
It's definitely a finance discussion. It's not something that's exciting in finance committee. We've learned that's the least exciting committee to be on, so.
It may be something to bring up as a separate topic at some
Yeah.
point to deal with, because I think it's
Yeah.
more related as a separate topic.
Yeah,
And she's
makes
right,
sense.
it relates to finance
Yeah.
in a big way. So just a thought.
yeah, no, I'm ready. I already heard a lot of what I needed to hear.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Rutledge,
No.
Mrs. Riley,
No.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
No.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Abstain.
Mr. Neville,
No?
Mr. Ryder,
No.
Mr. Renier,
No.
Mrs. DePoe,
No.
Chairman Krizel.
No.
Motion
Fails.
not certified passes. That's a lot of double negatives.
11C, discussion and action, if any, regarding our June 25th, 2019 regular Board of Education meeting. We do not see a need for a regular meeting. There could be a possibility of a special meeting, as we discussed earlier. So I need a motion to cancel our regular meeting of January 25th, 2019. Moved by Mr. Poe, seconded by Mr. Neville. June 25th, 2019, sorry. I don't know.
They both start with the G.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rutledge,
Yes.
Mrs. Riley,
Abstain.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Neville,
Yes?
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Renier,
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe.
Yes.
Chairman Krizel.
No, because I like meetings, so no.
Motion still passes. Sorry.
I want to get out of the house. It's still canceled, it's just one no vote, okay? Relax. Yeah. Number 12, board committee reports, curriculum.
Nothing at this time. We've
Finance.
We've canceled the last meeting because there was nothing in the agenda to have us in. There was one small item which will be postponed until August.
Finance.
Same as last, there's nothing to report. Year-end accounting is closing out.
Kathy,
Yeah, the letters are
the
off.
alphabet's wrong here, I just don't want to,
Just the subtitles under 12. Yeah.
okay, just a heads up. Policy.
If all goes well, June 19th, 5:45 PM at Elkhorn.
Leadership, we had a meeting and not much to report. Joint facilities, we did not have a meeting. We have a meeting
The 20th.
the 20th. JFK is meeting this Thursday to shortlist the CMR. CMR for interviews on the Saturday, July 12th, right? Yes.
Is that late?
No, July 13th. It's the weekend after the 4th of July Fest. And the 4th of July is on a Thursday, so 13th, July 13th. Any other committees?
Joint security tomorrow, 8:30 on the 12th.
And we had insurance
The
committee.
insurance committee met. We have a new consultant actuary for our insurance liaison with Cigna. We discussed stop-loss insurance and building a relationship, and we have our next meeting in
And we got okay with the stop-loss, the one
Yep.
we picked.
Yep. And
Good to
our
look
next
at that.
meeting's in October.
Number 13, approval of minutes, regular Board of Ed meeting, May 28th, 2019.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? All in favor? Is that 9? 9 in favor? 9 in favor, 0 against. Approval of accounts and payroll,
We have none.
correspondence and communications.
I have something.
Go ahead.
Well, first, everybody got their graduation invite, and you must RSVP to Mary Beth. Next Tuesday, we'll be on the athletic field this time next Tuesday. Most everyone will have graduated, maybe. But there's one item they asked me to talk about tonight, is the spring athletes. The athletes couldn't be here tonight. There's a banquet that a lot of them were unable to attend tonight. So I want to say congrats to all the spring athletes. It's definitely a tough season. It was a lot of rain. There was a lot of baseball games moved around, a lot of track meets in the rain, golf, all that fun stuff. But these are the students that we're going to be recognizing. And this is from Corey O'Connell, the Director of Athletics. Our athletic coaches are being celebrated tonight at the CCC Spring Awards Banquet and are unable to attend. We still wanted the opportunity to celebrate academic and individual and team accomplishments. Academic, our athletes continue to excel in the classroom. The third quarter performance resulted in 96.3% of our student athletes maintaining their eligibility, 46.1% receiving honors or high honors, 16% honors, and 30% high honors. That's great. Our next level ceremony recognized our student athletes who will continue their academic and athletic careers in college. They are Destiny Bailey, Bay Path University softball, Caitlin Bork, Southern Connecticut State University field hockey, Freddie Centrella, Westfield State football, Andrew Cherry, AIC soccer, Andrew Diaz, Mass Maritime football, Tori Gigalone, Assumption College field hockey, Zach Healy, Southern Connecticut baseball, Stephanie Heck, Longborough University for soccer, Cameron LeBlanc, Western New England University football, Devin Marcotte, AIC baseball, Maggie Marcotte, Western New England University softball, Katie Marullo, St. Michael's College soccer, Justin Melendez, Elms College soccer, Kyle Menaker, University of Albany baseball, Sean Messina, Western New England University wrestling, Emily Pease, Emmanuel College softball, Valerie Pino, Western New England University softball, Brett Reedy, University of New Haven baseball, Cassie Urso, Hudson University basketball, Kaimani Yerd, University of St. Joe's lacrosse. An overview of the seasons. Baseball, 17-6 overall record, CCC East Patriot champions. Class L, Double L quarterfinalists, all conference, Devin Edwards, Matt Falk, Brett Reedy, and Jake Timmy, with Brett Reedy also making All-State. Brett Reedy's also in the Senior All-Star game, and the Junior Select game is Devin Edwards. Our baseball team ran a food drive in December and collected 1,900 pounds for the Enfield Food Shelf, assisted Enfield Little League with their tryouts, assisted at opening day of Enfield Little League, umpiring, setting up facilities, ran the MLB throw and hit competition. The coaching staff would like to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity to play a game at the Dunkin' Donuts Park in Hartford and recognize our seniors prior to the game at such a great venue. Golf played the first ever girls match against Rockville at Willowbrook with Tori Gigalone, Maggie Johnson, Catherine Longo, and Kayla Stauffer. Alex Ferris averaged 5.7 strokes over the differential par, shot a 37, and was a medalist against Ram. Several golfers made major improvements in average scores. Sean Messina went from shooting in the 60s to breaking 50 regularly with a low of 44. Tori Gigalone went from the 60s to shooting 49. Shot a season best 189 against Ram, breaking 200 for the second time, which was a team goal. Lacrosse boys went 3-11. This was such a great thing to watch this year. In the first year as a varsity sport, we were able to gather Enfield High School's first varsity lacrosse victory versus Capital Prep on April 30th. Completed the season by winning 3 games against established program. The coaches and players are very excited about the future success of the program. Lacrosse girls went 2-12. Also in the first year as a varsity sport, we were able to gather Enfield High School's first girls lacrosse victory versus Bristol Eastern on April 29th. We walked away from every game being proud of something that looked better than the game before. We had some tough losses, and the team worked hard to keep up morale and stay positive. We still have a lot to work on, but the coaches are very proud of the hard work the girls put in this season. Outdoor track, I love track. It's been so great to watch. A great season overall with some amazing accomplishments this year. All conference, Joelle Stewart, Xavier Samuels, Brendan DeBarber, Jalen Brown, Matthew Santee, Megan Marcotte, and Sierra Johnson. Matthew Santee also got All-State. Outstanding freshman at the Journal-Inquirer Invitational Meet was Megan Marcotte. Qualified for the Class Double L State Meet, 4x100, Joelle Stewart, Xavier Samuels, Brendan DeBarber, Jalen Brown. For the girls, it was Rue Risby, Sierra Johnson, Stephanie Heck, and Carly Oppenheimer. The 100 meters, Joelle Stewart, Xavier Samuels, J.L. Brown, and Sierra Johnson. 200, Joelle Stewart, Kyle Deshane, Stephanie Heck, and Sierra Johnson. 300 hurdles, Brendan DeBarber. High jump, Matt Santee, Eric Maloney, and Jeremy Targonski. Long jump, Matt Santee. Triple jump, Matt Santee. 400 meter, Garrett Rich. Shot put, Cameron LeBlanc and Megan Marcotte. Discus, Tom Sherubin. Javelin, Brendan DeBarber, Ryan DeBarber, Cody Stager. 800 meters, Ethan O'Farrell, and 3,200 meters, Dan White. These following students qualified for state opens: 100 meters, Joelle Stewart; javelin, Brendan DeBarber; high jump, Matt Santee and Eric Maloney; long jump, Matt Santee; and the triple jump, Matt Santee. The following qualified for New England's with the high jump and the triple jump was Matt Santee. Boys came in 6th overall in the Class Double L state meet. Matt Santee also placed 2nd in the high jump at the New England Championships and will now move on to the national competition next week. Softball, 14-6, all conference, Cameron Martinez, Valerie Pino, and Caitlin Shershak. Tennis, the boys went 6-10. Participation is at an all-time high for a new high school with 15 on the roster. All conference was Adam Coffey. Adam Coffey and John Kelly qualified for the Double L state tournament as singles players. Tennis, girls tennis, they went 6-12. Participation continued to grow with 19 girls competing at a varsity level. Standouts were Kara Edwards, 9th grade, Gianna Montigny, 11th grade, and Lily Johnson, 12th grade. 11 first-year players who gained experience are making great gains in their tennis skills. This is boys volleyball. They went 8-12. The all-conference players are Patrick Fleming and Sean Levering. Academic all-state, meaning the GPA was at least 3.7 or top 10% of the class, Patrick Fleming. The All-State has not yet been selected, and the senior all-star team is Patrick Fleming and Sean Levering. So I'd like to congratulate all the athletes and coaches.
I'd like to congratulate Tina LeBlanc for reading all those names without murdering
I was
them.
a little nervous.
Because I would have murdered every single one of those names. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have a need for executive session? We do not. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Neville.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Riley. Any discussion? All in favor? 900. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good night.